Last time we mapped one thermal hub and key travel routes through 3 bluff gaps. What if this entire big wood scene held the home ranges of 2 or 3 mature bucks? How would they move? And where could we intercept them? Let's see what the maps reveal. When we talk about mature buck movement in hill country, we're not talking about random travel. We're talking about travel routes that these mature bucks will use, sometimes in a core area that might be his own travel route. In the rut, these travel routes might be where multiple mature bucks are forced to go based on terrain. Bucks typically travel in an oval-shaped system within their home range. It's not a perfect oval, but generally 1/2 to 3/4 miles wide by 1 to 2 miles long. Inside that home range, there are several smaller core areas they use more consistently, and this is based on food, cover, where the does are, and of course security. These core areas shrink with age. Older bucks move less and rely more on terrain, wind, thermals, and safety. One of the best lessons I've learned is this: terrain defines where a buck is going to feel the safest. Terrain shapes how core areas form and where mature bucks spend most of their time. Think about the upper 1/3 bedding, leeward ridges, and steep terrain. In hill country, bucks spend 90% of their daylight hours in areas where they have cover visibility and wind slant thermal advantage. Now let's put all of this together. Here's how you might visualize multiple bucks in the same landscape. We're looking at 4 separate home ranges, each visualized by a range ring. The yellow ring is a 2-mile radius home range, which is typical for middle-aged bucks. The red ring represents a 1.5-mile range. The black and the blue are tighter, only a 1-mile range. These are likely 6.5 and older bucks. Within each of those home ranges, we can highlight known or suspected core areas in a corresponding color polygon. The core areas range in size from the smallest being around 53 acres to the biggest at 218 acres. Core areas will shift slightly depending on time of year, food, water, and where local doe groups are bedding during the rut. So we've talked about how terrain shapes each mature buck's home range and the core areas they're most likely to use. But what happens when the rut begins to ramp up? University research and my own trail cameras show that many mature bucks revisit the same high-value scrapes every year during the rut. I've documented 12 to 13 different mature bucks hitting a single scrape, and it might not be the exact same bucks, but I've seen the multiple mature buck theme across numerous seasons, as long as you are able to find 1 to 4 of these key scrapes. The good news is that with persistence and hard work, you can find them if you search in the right places. Pre-rut can be gold in strategic spots, and after a buck breeds the first does in his core area, he starts moving, and where he goes can be where we have a tree picked out. Well-placed pre-rut setups near generational scrapes from 25 October to that early November time frame can also be productive, especially if you haven't bumped the dominant buck. I think that's real key in this situation. Timing matters. If we hunt too early, the oldest bucks will be onto us before they move in daylight, and access matters just as much. Wind and thermals and stealth entry are everything. To hunt a hot pre-rut core area, you have to be close to bedding, and you won't get too many chances. It's best to wait for a high-pressure cold snap in late October or early November and surprise the oldest of the bucks, or they'll beat you about 9 times out of 10. Around 8 or 9 November, after the peak rut, most mature bucks have bred their first does and begin expanding their search. Rut timing varies by region, but this pattern holds even when you have late ruts in December or January, unless warm weather delays activity. After those first does are bred, mature bucks expand their range, often covering surprising distances to find those doe groups, especially when the temperatures are cold. When 20 to 30 degree temperatures encompass legal hunting hours, those are prime for being in the stand. They don't move randomly. They follow terrain, saddles, bluff gaps, and natural funnels they've used for years. That's why terrain funnels give you one of the best chances to encounter a 5.5+ year-old buck. Now here's where it gets interesting. When multiple mature bucks leave their core areas, terrain starts funneling them together. Let me show you what I mean. Funnels, bluff gaps, saddles, and terrain constrictions become critical during the rut. By identifying terrain pinch points between multiple core areas, you're going to raise your odds dramatically. This map shows how 4 bucks, each with their own home range, could all funnel through one bluff gap during peak movement. You won't always have trail camera data to confirm where a buck travels during the rut, but you can trust the terrain. When you learn how to use these new maps with LiDAR as a serious tool and you understand how bucks use elevation, thermals, and wind, you start stacking the odds in your favor. Trail cameras help you identify and confirm inventory, but I use them to confirm what terrain already tells me. It takes work, but every time I scout, I learn something new. I hope this helps you build better stand locations this season. If you want more detail on how I build my maps or scout these terrain features, stay tuned for the next video in the series. Thanks for watching, and drop a comment if this helped you think about buck travel in a new way.